Hey everybody, it's me, Blue Jay, and I decided to make a video today because of all I guess controversy is the word you could use for it, but it's just all really the excitement that's been happening on the Facebook page and the PR and everything, and I just decided to make a video about Melee itself and like the state of our current scene and everything. Um, so I don't know how long this is going to be, but I just wanted to state what this video is. This video is not about making money, obviously. I don't think that anyone could ever make money off of a video as specific as the one I'm trying to go for. The second thing is that I'm gonna really be trying to not focus on me because I don't think I'm that big of a person in the Melee community to rule everybody's lives or like make my opinions more apparent. There are going to be a lot of what I say, like my opinions and everything, but this isn't going to focus on me as a player or like a competitor or a TO or anything like that. The third thing is that I don't expect this to get a whole lot of views, but if there are even like just 10 people or 5 people who can watch this and pull something good out of it or like good discussion or they learn something, then that's fine. I'll continue to make them and everything, but whatever. If nobody ends up watching it, then this will be just another pebble in the water. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about today is just a current, like a little update on the PR because I know a lot of people have been asking about that, and it seems to be our most positive and popular, not positive, excuse me. I was trying to look for the word popular. It seems to be like the most popular topic for debate and everything in our scene. So I just wanted to go over what I think the plans should be for the future and what that I have set to lay out. Um, the first one I have on there is those who care, people that care about the PR, and everyone else that is like, why would you care? Well, people that care about the PR have a measured version of a way to, or excuse me, have a way to measure their progress within the scene. I think it's one of the things that drove me to play for a long time was to get on the PR and see how far I could go. But with the current lull we have in our community and not a lot of top players being active and going to different tournaments, then those who care and really want to make their way onto the PR have a better chance probably now than ever. We have players that are making up wins like Requiem and Soul, and even those who are just making strides like Misto. And of course, you have our Tibby top players who seem to be doing well out of state, like Cruz and Logos. Although Logos had mono and died for a little bit, but basically that is like the current outlier or the current outline for those who care about the PR. That we can definitely keep your progress tracked and like even if you don't make it into the top 10, I think this will be a good way to measure if you beat somebody that does make it into the top 10 or like measure out your wins and everything. The second thing I have on here is the statistics, and I haven't made this public yet, but I have right here all of our almost updated all the way Utah Smash win statistics with players that have taken big wins or big strides within the last quarter. And you can see that players like Soul, Jet, Smoom, Judge, Stitch, Requiem, etc. They all have a place on this list, even though a lot of it isn't very great. But you still have made strides, and you've had victories over players who have been impressing everybody else. Now then, we can go to the next one. The plan for this is myself and Phoenix, young Nathan, are going to be, and by the both of us, I mostly mean Nathan, but he wants to put together a panel of a few people where we will take a vote on who we think should be in what place at the PR. We will only be doing the top 10, and we will be using the statistics that I have rounded up, and I just haven't made them public yet because I think I've missed a few tournaments. Um, I have had a couple people like Phoenix himself review it, and he has stated that there's a couple wins on there for different players that are incorrect. So that's the current plan right now, and as soon as we get as soon as we get the panel figured out, we will post our votes and what we thought about each different candidate and everything in each position, so that everyone that doesn't quite agree with it can get our thought process and can at least kind of see what we were thinking. And the last thing I have here on this part is I think there should be a rule, a rubric, um, for those that want to make it onto the PR with like a minimum amount of tournaments they need to go to and a minimum amount of sets they have to play. We haven't really decided which one to go between yet. But the only person I can think of that this would affect right now is probably Net. I think, personally, I think Net hasn't gone to enough tournaments this quarter in order to establish himself on the PR. And I assume Net and maybe some other people are going to say, oh, I went to enough. And that's why we're trying to kind of figure out what we can say is not enough and what we can say is enough. Because if you look at the stat sheet that I provided here, and like I said, I don't think these are all the stats yet, but he's only on this listed, and this was updated up to, I think, the first. Um, so it has everything from the first. It just doesn't have the tournaments on Saturday, or the previous Saturday, and up to that point, Net had only 8 sets played against other players that were in contention for the PR, which is all the players listed here. Like I said, we will have to make it more standardized and everything so that people know what they need to expect and like how much they have to compete in order to maintain their spot on the PR, which is why players like Forte Freak and Perfect Chaos and everything, that they won't be on it even though they probably could be. And also those rules extend to our good friends up in Norta and our good friends down in Sota, that if we get a more centralized rule plan for who can make it onto the PR and who can't, for what events and for what reason, then we can get players like maybe Rogueway or some players down from Sota who can make it onto the PR and therefore better represent what to expect from our local scene. So that's just the current plans with the PR. Nothing is really set in stone, but these are like kind of experiments that myself and other members of the community like Phoenix are going to go through and see if they work. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and get to the next topic of the state of our scene. And the first one I have on here is just Norta. Excuse me. Norta seems to be, in my eyes, they just seem to be part of the scene that have kind of cut themselves off from the rest of the scene, which I assume they like it because of how well it works for them. They get good turnouts for North Utah events and everything like that. But I would actually like to try to use this video to also address people from Norta and ask them why they like to have the separation there. I understand that maybe a lot of North Utah people don't like some middle or southern or whatever you want to call the rest of Utah. Maybe they just like it because it's like they get to have their own scene that they don't have to travel very far for. But my point is just that I would really like for Norta to start coming to more events, and I would really like to start playing against Rogueway and other high level or a high level Fox, and other players like Dr. P. And I wish that they would come around to our scene more. But I understand that we should also have to make an effort to go up to their scene and to support their scene too. And whether or not some of us have problems with some of the people in Norta, or whether they have problems with us, I think we should all be able to kind of bury the hatchet and do everything we can to make our scene have, big tournaments like other places in the United States. We're not going to get to the point like Sota where we have like a 300 person weekly, but I yearn for the days back when I'd go to a weekly and there'd be like 30 people there and like half of them were good. Meaning like half of them had potential to beat or upset a good player, and it was really competitive, and I liked the atmosphere behind that. And then moving on beneath that is just our community in general, because I realize while I just spent the whole top part kind of railing on Norta, and I really hope that nobody from Norta thinks that it was in an offensive way. I tried to go about it as best as I could to understand where they're coming from, because I really like the Norta support, and I'd really like to play players from up there like Rogueway and Dr. P, and even some players like that I housed with, not that I housed with, but I drove back from Evo, like Ammo, where they were really cool, and like I just had never had the chance to like meet and talk to this person before because of the community division. So the next part I'd like to address is our lovely community in general. I realize like separating our community from Norta is counterintuitive to what I was going for in the first place. Um, but I feel like this better covers just the general state of this part of Utah. Is Our weeklies are getting less and less people. The 801 Labs weekly, the I don't even know if the Game Tyrant weekly still happens anymore because Alex transferred over to Tournament Ready. But at least the Tournament Ready series seems to be getting more people lately. But like it even feels like the Good Move weeklies are kind of dwindling. Not too bad, but still we've been much higher before. And so this is just my local plea out for anybody. If you think you can make it to a weekly, if even if it's just because it's the only one that's close to you, or you don't have work on that day, I would really I would really appreciate that you support your local scene, even if it's you know I it sucks that in the end, in order to support our scene, we do have to have a little bit of money to spare. And I personally, if I'm at a weekly and somebody can't enter because they don't have enough money, I usually fork up some extra money so that person can enter. So if the reason you're not going is because you don't have the money, I understand times can be tough, but I think that playing a competitive game like this can be really helpful, especially if you have a drive to get better. And if I see you have that drive, and I'm sure Cruz would feel very similar. I know John has done this before in the past as well, but I will be willing to pay your venue fee or your entry fee or both, even if it just means that you go there and you go 0-2 every week or something. Even if it's just a little bit of improvement every time, I would really like to see our scene get better. Because players like myself tend to struggle with like trying to stay afloat when there's just not as much people around to play. And scrolling down a little bit, I want to address the 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 Facebook thing with that I promoted Cruz up to admin and all that blew up. I just wanted to address the reason why I did. I put Cruz up to an admin, and then I think Rogueway took him down, which is fine. But my thought process behind that was if I made Cruz an admin, I thought he would do what he did the first. I thought what he would do the first. I'm sorry. I thought the first thing that he was going to do, which he did, was edit like the waiting here page, basically our page that had more info. Like this is the where you go to find information about this page. And he updated that immediately, and I thought like, okay, this is good. This is gonna work out. And then he immediately tried to address the PR with when I had already stated like a month ago or so that each quarter was gonna get updated. And that post had a lot of views and everything, and I thought everybody understood. But Cruz wasn't trying to do anything negative. He was just trying to give our scene good representation, which is fine. It's a good idea, but the execution was a little bit sloppy. And he updated his own PR with his personal opinion, and that was almost immediately taken down because it was just like a post that was set on fire. But I really appreciate the things that Cruz tried to do and that he is trying to make an effort, because that Facebook page, no one has really done anything with it. And I had some people messaging me asking me like, why did you promote Cruz to admin or whatever? And I'm like, because at least he's doing something with it. If I had a kid and they were playing with a toy, and one day they stopped playing with it and another kid wanted that, I'd give it to the other kid. Or like if I had an old car that was in runnable condition, and a friend of mine needed to borrow a car for a few days, and I had another one or whatever. My point is that it was something that nobody was using. So I thought if somebody can make use out of it and get value out of it, then that could be good. Even if it's just for that one person, there's no way it could be bad for other people. And even though people freaked out about it, I don't think it was at all a negative attempt on trying to help put together our community. And then the final thing I'd like to talk about is just Melee itself, and I wanted to go over the things that that can drive our local scene down, because of the negative attitudes that some people give, and I'm at fault at this too. So it's something we all have to get better together. But controversial playstyles and characters, meaning you play against a Peach player who just down smashes on a platform, or you play against a Falcon who just somehow perfectly reads your tech patterns, or you're playing against a Marth that will only dash dance, or you're playing against an Ice Climbers player that will just wobble you. If any of these things happen and they irritate you, just know that somebody has been through your thought process before, and whether or not they like the situation they're in, that they have learned to deal with it. So, myself, this is the prime example I can give is that there was a weekly where I had lost to Stammy in bracket, and I think I really would hope that this wasn't just the contained rage I had at Ice Climbers and at Stammy for playing them, because in the end I think that him playing Ice Climbers is good for the scene. Um, but I kind of raged at him a little bit, and I said some things that I thought afterward kind of crossed the line. Um, and so using myself as an example, and I know I didn't want to talk about myself a lot, but I feel like if I can shine the negativity on me, it can kind of point out other places that this happens in our scene. But yeah, certain playstyles like that can tilt you, and I know Net is one that is really good at tilting people. I think Ender is also another person who is good at tilting people. Basically, in the end, I think those players that are able to tilt everybody else are really good for our scene because they let us understand that even though we're mad at the game, we can still have a good thought process and a good game plan going into it. So I think if you prepare mentally for what happens in that game plan, even if it's like, you're really tired of a character chain grabbing you, or if you're tired of getting wobbled or anything like that, you can practice your movement, you can practice ways to commit less, but still do a good amount of damage. Maybe stop running up and doing unsafe things on shield or something like that, play it more slow, whatever it may be. Like the one that I used to have a while ago that I know Lifeline had as well was all the time when we would play Hailstorm back when he was more active in the scene. He would down smash on platforms a lot as Peach, and I know multiple players. I think Misto had gone through it. I think Fable went through it a little bit, but Fable was pretty good against it. I think OKP went through it a little bit too, where you jump into down smashes sometimes, and you really need to learn to accept it. That sometimes the stupid damage is going to happen to you. Like you get up smashed by Fox one time, and because you're playing Falco or Falcon, it happens 4 more times or whatever. The point is that you need to make yourself better at understanding that some characters have stuff that is free or is guaranteed or easier or whatever. And you need to understand that your character has some of those too, so that while you're getting down smashed on a platform by this Peach, you're also double kneeing her or shining her off the top as Falco at like 50%, and that each character has something kind of stupid and quirky like that, or like kind of cheesy, I guess. Take a quick break. So anyway, going back, I think that uh, putting more effort toward in the future toward beating those matchups that you really don't like. If you know if you know that there's one matchup in particular that you always get messed up on, or if there's something, a play style, like whether it's slower or faster, if you can recognize what is happening to you, then there is a way to fix it, and then there's a way to improve as well. So even if it's just something minor, that's how you can kind of see top players, especially like top players in our scene like OKP and Logos, where they are really good at if something hits them and they realize like they get like a super punish or like they get 0 to death for it. They're really good about finding new creative ways to kind of beat that thing, not even beat the thing, but just stay away from it, or at least not let it impact their stock as much. So I think that is like real life adaptation is really good. And even if it's just picking up one thing, one habit at a time, I think it's really good to pick those things up and just think about it even a little bit. And then the next thing is practice. Some people message me pretty frequently on ways they can improve. They ask me to analyze their videos, and I'm always happy to do it. But I think the general consensus for a lot of players in our scene is that we we try to ask things like, "What beats this?" or like, "What do you think I could do better here?" And in the end, a lot of what I have to say, and I'm guilty of this too, and I guarantee you, everybody in the scene, everybody in Melee is guilty of this. But you probably don't practice enough. If you're getting hit by one thing, or if you're having trouble in one matchup, or if your punish game isn't good enough, or if you keep dropping things, I mean, Armada has constantly said, and so has PP, that their Armada in particular has said if there was any point in his punish where he stopped and he couldn't do more, he always thinks like, well, what could I do differently to maximize my punish? And it's things like just extending with one or two small hits to get enough percent in order to kill, or sending them off stage instead of up in the air, stuff like that. Recognizing how to edgeguard characters that are relatively more easy to edgeguard, like Sheik, and rinsing and just kind of repeating those edgeguards instead of just hitting them on stage and letting them get back to neutral. I think all of that is important, and that people should start practicing their punish game a lot more. Um, I think most people in our community need to practice um, he, meaning to do what they think they need to do. Meaning, like, there are a lot of times where I need to do something, but I have some execution problems because I don't practice enough. And I think a lot of people in the Utah community definitely suffer from that, and people all over the world definitely suffer from that. Nobody has perfect tech skill 100% of the time, but you do need to get the tech skill down that does get you the punishes that you need in order to win the matchup. You don't need to learn double shine, grab or whatever, but you probably should learn how to wave shine, and you probably should learn how to shine and like running shine, or shine and then do like an aerial drifting back so that you can't get shield grabbed, stuff like that. Where if you just practice some things that are a little bit more safe, like one that I know Lifeline has been practicing lately is shield drop waveland in either grab or turn around stomp, and even just small stuff like that where you can win one more exchange. I know Lifeline grinds his punish game more than anybody else with how much he tech chases. Um, if he gets that one opening, he can take that stock from that person. So that's how important, when you're getting better, that's how important one opening is. So I think practicing your execution stuff, even if it's just one little thing like, oh, maybe, I'm not very good at chain grabbing, or I just don't have the Sheik tech chase down, or whatever it is that is particular to your character that you can get huge punishes off of. Everyone needs to start practicing more. I get requests for fests and stuff all the time too, and a lot of people, I do understand that it is more fun to play against other people, but a lot of people in our community would get better if they just sat down at a TV or net play or whatever and just combo and just comboed a fox for a few hours. So I think that is one thing that's really important, and this also goes in, kind of coincides with something else that I've noticed that isn't on this list, but I'd like to go back to what I was saying about our community, and that is I don't think our community has enough fests. I think everybody is too focused on the different amount of tournaments that we can have at each weekly because they want to prove that they can get up on the PR, or that they can beat this one person, or that they know this matchup. But I think that if more people started having posts about fests like RJ used to, and Bryce used to, we would have much bigger fests, and because of it, we'd make better friends. We'd increase like the people in our community. And I know Logos has said stuff about this all the time, and but I think we need to have more fests and less tournaments. Now, if the Friday weekly that was a game tyrant, if that no longer exists because Alex switched over, which I don't know if it does or not. I haven't looked into it yet. But that would be a great night to have a fest. If people are usually free Friday night, they usually work Monday through Friday, and then all of a sudden we get a big fest together. I understand that my place is particularly out of the way, and I also work some weekends anyway, so it's hard for me to start those fests. But if you're somebody in the scene who just wants to play some melee, and you have a good space for people to come play, even if it's kind of small, if you get a few people there, it'd be nice. then definitely fest. And if you can't fest because of like how far you are away from people or whatever, then you should find people to net play with, from any scene. If you can use net play to your advantage, that's also something that's really good for improvement and just like practicing too. And I think every player in the world understands how helpful fests are, and that they can build good relationships too. That's how I met Logos. That's pretty much how I met Lifeline. And that's how we met a bunch of other players too. Like that's how I met LSP. That's how I first talked to RJ and to Bellsworth, and really got to like know people like Devon and stuff. But yeah, so like if you're, I think these are all good things to have in the community. So anyway, we'll continue and get to the last thing I have on my list, and that's support, guys. I don't care if you like me or if you like Logos or if you like OKP or if you don't like any of us, if you like other players, even if it's because you just don't know them or whatever. If you're in Norton and you don't like really the rest of Central Utah, I get it. We're kind of annoying. We make a lot of big deals about nothing. But I encourage that no matter what part of the scene you're in, that you support your local tournaments and your local players and everything. I think at the end of the day, we could have used some more good support for players like Stammy, who had moved away and had seemingly quit before he moved because of the negative input that he was receiving. So I want to personally apologize to Stammy for some of the things that I said to him, and know that I've known him for longer than most of the people in our community, and I really will I really will miss the guy. Hopefully he comes back and visits every now and then, or I get to talk to him on Discord or something. But I thought he was quirky and funny, and I think I personally should have supported him more in the way that he decided to play Melee and improve our scene. So anyway, guys, I think we should really support our events. If we could support our events more, if we chose one tournament to go to, we could kind of unify in a way. And this would make it so that there's not 14 weeklies a week. There's just a couple or a few. There's more fests going on. There's more improvement. There's more happiness. There's more people. These are the plans that I would like to help influence for the future, because the Melee community is how I got almost everything that I have here. I mean, if it weren't for Melee, I wouldn't have this computer or my monitors or anything. I probably wouldn't even have my dog. I wouldn't have either of my roommates. I wouldn't have my job, even though it's just I work at Domino's. But if I didn't know about Melee, I wouldn't have met the people that I wouldn't have met Logos, who told me that Domino's was a good job. So anyway, guys, I think that any way that you can support our scene and community, even if you don't like a lot of the people in it, if you like the game, if you like Melee, then I think even if it's just minor things like, maybe you chip in $1 to help somebody enter an event, maybe you hold a fest that only gets like 3 people, something like that. Even the small things, we really do appreciate, guys. Anyway, if this gets enough good feedback, then I'll gladly make another one, and maybe if it gets enough, we can have me talk to other people and see what other people think about the scene and ways to improve it, because I know I have some tunnel vision when it comes to these things. So anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I tried to put a good amount of effort into it so it didn't sound like crap or anything, but I think there is a little microphone interference that hopefully I get worked out. But the bottom line, guys, is that I think the way to improve our community is to start caring more. Start attending tournaments more. Start having more fests. Sit down at setups. Play with people. Get to know them. Hopefully you can make as good friends with them as I have over my life. Anyway, peace out.